Raw, SmackDown, WWE, or AEWN. Tune in to The Joe Cronin Show. Live on YouTube for review and reaction. Joe Cronin and Jake break down all the action. All of it. The Joe Cronin Show. Your source for wrestling opinions, news, and insanity. A wrestling podcast with attitude. Mature audiences only. Join our community of over 70,000 people. Subscribe free on YouTube to The Joe Cronin Show.
Oh boy, what's going on, everybody? What a day, man. I think 2021 and 2022 have been the year of failure for me. Man, it's been a fall from grace. Like, entropy is taking its toll on me. There's a lot of stuff, man. I mean, my gas prices right now, they're insane. So we're going to talk about William Regal, some of the wrestling news that's going on right now. And we have some excerpts from a interview I did with Stabbing Westward, Chris Hall. So you guys are going to be able to hear that a little bit later as well. Timestamps will be down below if you want to skip anything. But they came out with a new CD. It's coming out March 18th. Pretty crazy, man. Chasing Ghosts comes out March 18th. You guys can get it on the band's Bandcamp. If you just go to Stabbing Westward's Bandcamp, put the link down below, you'll be able to get the entire album. There was a vinyl, too. I think it was a pre-order. I'm not sure if they have any more vinyls left, but you can get it on CD. Did a little interview with Chris Hall, and, man, it did not go the way I wanted it to go, but it's okay. And then we'll get into the music. Because there's so many bands coming out with things. I mean, Placebo releases an album the week after the new Stabbing Westward one comes out. Smile Empty Soul has something coming out. Birthday Massacre just released something. Fascinations, their new album. There's somebody else that's coming out that they might be interested in, you know. William Regal apologizes for the other night. I said last night that all the interviews and all the promos on AEW did not sound right. They sounded like everybody went too long and they were discombobulated with how they were speaking. They sounded like me on my trying to talk to Chris Hall earlier. I did an interview with Chris Hall a year ago and it went a little bit better, but we had an hour, so might have been why. William Regal says, "This is a professional note from me, as I have no other form of communication, I guess, and would rather new colleagues see this. I don't like gossip. I'm very sorry to everyone I affected by my time last night. I apologize to everyone personally affected. Should be showing people by example and being a pro and hitting my times." So that's William Regal saying that he missed his time. And, you know, last night when I mentioned this and I said something doesn't seem right about his promo last night, several people said to me, "Oh, you know, you're being an asshole," or "He can do whatever, you know, whatever. He sounded perfect." You know, and I was like, listen, I love William Regal, and I don't care how long people take on promos, but man, he did not sound right. He was dragging on, and he abandoned one story to get to another story, then abandoned another story, and I think he realized that he was going to take 45 minutes if he didn't rein himself in. So I actually thought he did a good job of realizing that he was off the mark last night. He was kind of all over, man. He didn't know what the hell he was going to say, or like, you know, everything he started didn't make any sense. So I give him credit for noticing that and just getting to the point of we're here to kick ass, which is that's the point that he should have just hit anyway. It's just, hey man, we're ready to kick ass, let's go. That's what he should have just stuck with, because he got off the rails, man. He was like, "Tony, what's up?" And he was feeling up Tony. He was crying. You know, he's staring. I mean, was there some kind of relationship with these two at some point? It was very weird. Then he got into Daniel Bryan and his situation. None of it made sense. So William Regal apologizing on Twitter today, saying he missed his time cue big time and affected the rest of the show. I think a lot of people did that last night, though, to be honest. So Anyway, you guys may notice the belt behind me. It's going to be fully unveiled in a couple of days. You may have seen some of the pictures going up on Twitter. We're closing in on WrestleMania week, so pretty excited for that. And that's really about it. For what I wanted to say about AEW last night, because we covered it, and with everything going on with WWE, I don't know. There's all these rumors about what Stone Cold Steve Austin is going to do. Is he going to wrestle Kevin Owens? Is it going to turn into a wrestling match? We don't know. And for me, it feels like WWE is just doing a bait and switch of, oh, yes, he's going to be wrestling at WrestleMania, of course. But not really. By saying it's been 19 years since he wrestled and, that sort of thing, you only say that if he's actually going to wrestle. But if he's not going to wrestle, then that's a bait and switch. That's a lot. I believe that's very disingenuous. But they'll do anything they can to push and to try to sell tickets. But I don't think you needed to say he was going to wrestle. I think you could have just said he's appearing on the Kevin Owens show, and that would have been fine. I don't think they needed to do exactly what they did. So it is what it is. A little bit disappointing with that, if that is a bait and switch. Now, if they do give us a wrestling match, then, hey, I'm all in. That's going to be nuts. I want to remind everybody, you guys can see so many indie wrestling pay-per-views if you go to Title Match Wrestling Network and use coupon code Cronin, and you guys will get a percentage off, I believe, still off of there. So let's get into the Stabbing Westward stuff. So I'm going to give you my review of the Stabbing Westward new album, Chasing Ghosts. So I'm going to give you my review of it, my breakdown, my thoughts. I'm going to go into this whole thing. And then in a bit after that, we're going to have Chris Hall on to give us some insight about a few things. A couple of interesting little tidbits here. I think I butchered most of the interview. I wanted to do a little bit better job for everybody, but we did get some interesting tidbits in this, and it was kind of nice, super nice to speak with him again. So we'll go into that. And then I will set up my Birthday Massacre, Smile Empty Soul reviews, and Placebo review later in the next couple of weeks as I add that to my channel here. So basically, Stabbing Westward started in the 80s, and, they were a band that was really well known in Chicago, and they had so much pull in Chicago. I don't know if that's really not the right thing to say. They didn't have so much pull. What the fuck I'm talking about? But they had a lot of influence in Chicago in the industrial type of scene back in the day. And bottom line is they get signed eventually in 1994, which I was about 10 years old. You guys were 10 years old maybe, or around that age, some of you. Some of you were younger, some of you were older. And Mortal Kombat. I mean, let's be honest, that's the way I was introduced to Stabbing Westward, was through Mortal Kombat. There's a scene in Mortal Kombat where a Stabbing Westward song plays, and weird fact is, I believe Stabbing Westward wasn't really on the soundtrack. So I had the Mortal Kombat soundtrack, and I remember even back then I used to get upset because I used to be like, where's that song, where's that beat I really liked? And the beat was during one point, Liu Kang, I believe, is coming up to the island or whatever, and it's like, and I was like, damn, that sounds fire. Like, I was a 10-year-old, you know what I mean? I was 10 years old, and I was like, man, that, like, I remember putting that loop on a tape. I had a tape recorder, and I had a little microphone where I used to do my own fake little radio show, and I used to use that sometimes as, like, the intro. Hey, we're back from commercial, like, whatever type of thing. And so it used to be fun to do that, and that was the song that I used. Now, I never knew that was Stabbing Westward. It wasn't until a little bit later that I found out that they had an album, Ungod, because of, Wither Blister, and so I'd been listening to Stabbing Westward without knowing it, just liking the music, not understanding they were a band that was put together and they already had albums out. I thought that music was part of the score. So anyway, then they come out with Wither Blister, Burn and Peel, and that gets huge success on MTV. The sound of the band changes a little bit, gets a little more poppy, with Andy Kubashevsky joining the band, and they kind of went through these changes, right? Like they had more of a guitar rock sound in the first Ungod album, and then Wither Blister, they got pretty popular being on MTV and probably some of the most notoriety. Then Save Yourself came out, and most people know Save Yourself. I think there's a lot of people now, my generation and younger, who don't really know what do I have to do as much and shame as much. Recently, we put out a poll, or the Stabbing Westward fans on Facebook put out a poll, and Shame, I believe, won the all-time song. So, like, that was the number one song. I meant to tell Chris about that. I don't know if he cares, but Shame won. It was hundreds of votes, thousands. People were voting and putting songs up against each other for weeks, and eventually Shame won the best song, the most liked Stabbing Westward song. So very interesting. But, I think for a lot of people outside of Stabbing Westward fans, or generic fans, or casual fans, or, people that aren't that big into them, they tend to me, know, Save Yourself the most. And speaking of music, I do have some stuff that's going to be up. People have asked me about my stuff. I'll have some stuff that's up, and I'll link it later on in another video or at another time. But getting into this, so now, Stabbing Westward puts out 3 albums, right? They're all pretty hard-hitting, heavy albums. Great stuff. Perfect for me as a teenager. I was like, angsty, sad, and the music really helped. I think everybody has the same story with that, so we won't harp on that. But, this is a band that I really love. Didn't get to see them live, really. In fact, right as I went to see them live, they broke up. They put out a 4th album after they were dropped from Columbia Records, and they got picked up by Koch Records. And then, Koch Records originally wanted to, they wanted Stabbing Westward. They wanted the rock, the industrial. They wanted the Marilyn Manson-like type of stuff. New metal was taking over at the time, though, so it was very strange because Stabbing Westward was industrial, and new metal was taking over along with the sort of the Brit pop and the pop stuff. So it almost was like industrial was kind of pushed aside, and either you took it to the next level, like a Linkin Park or Static X or people like that. And I just think that I honestly, even though I loved metal at the time, like Soulfly and Pantera and stuff like that, I think a lot of the new metal took the place of industrial, and quite honestly, even though there's a lot, there's some new metal bands that I like, and the Slipknots and stuff like that were going on, I just, I always felt that Stabbing was too smart, like, if that makes any sense. The music was too smart, or for that, it was just a very, like, we all got very Neanderthal, like, let's bang our heads and smash things and light things on fire. It wasn't really about, like, being emotional, sad, or, that. It was more about being angry at that time. And that's why I think things like Save Yourself worked out, because Save Yourself sounds, like a little angry. Hey, save yourself, and, it's very, like, in your face. And that's why I think it was a little before, or perfect timing, because it really fit on rock radio and on alternative radio. But once things got into the Static X's, the Limp Bizkits, the Il Nino type of stuff that was coming out, I just think they were pushed a bit aside. So they went in a direction of, okay, let's go Goo Goo Dolls, let's go British pop, let's go that look, that kind of upper scale look, and move away from the heaviness of the industrial stuff. And I don't think Stabbing would ever go new metal. I don't think that was ever going to be the type of music that they would want to make, or that Chris Hall would really make. So they went with what was close enough, but in a completely opposite direction. So the 4th CD was weird and didn't really sound like anything they'd done before for the most part. I still like the 4th CD. I really do. I think it's still nice music, and I think Chris Hall's voice is awesome. I think he could just do anything. The guy could probably sing, I don't know, folk or country. I don't even like country. And I think he could sing country, and I'd probably listen to it because the voice is so impactful and different. So, but anyway, they broke up after that 4th CD. That really was the nail in the coffin. So anyway, Chris Hall creates The Dreaming, a new band, when Stabbing Westward breaks up. And I love The Dreaming from the beginning to the end, to be honest. I was in high school, I believe, and I remember the website going up for songs, and I was like, wow, already, I don't know, like 3-4 months later, maybe, or something, 8 months, I don't know how long it was. It was almost like right away. There was a couple of teaser songs, and I had like hope, like, ooh, wow, okay, maybe this won't go away. And The Dreaming, was obviously a little bit of a different sound, because we're hearing all of Chris Hall's creativity mixed with a whole bunch of new people that would come and go throughout the years, and so it is different, in many ways than Stabbing Westward, a little bit. but it always felt part of that genre. So it's still it's Chris Hall. You know what I mean? He wrote he wrote a lot of Stabbing Westward stuff. You know what I mean? And so it feels like a little bit continued there. So it always was good. I always liked the Dreaming. Could go into a million stories about that and everything else. But the bottom line is that we're all here to talk about Chasing Ghosts. So this album just is coming out. Depending on when you're hearing this, it's probably already out, March 18th. It's a long time coming. I will say that if you do enjoy this new Stabbing Westward that you're hearing, and you're coming back, that you're an old fan coming back or realizing that Stabbing Westward is back and you're coming back, I do think you should listen to all the Dreaming stuff, but you don't have to. But right now, Chasing Ghosts being out, just going through this song to song. And I would love to play clips of the tracks and stuff. I can't do that, but you'll hear it soon enough. But I will go over what I thought of each one of them for the most part. I listened to this several times, and much like I've been pretty happy listening to almost everything, man. The only thing that always gives me a hiccup is that, with the new way that a lot of people release stuff, where there's a single and a single and a single leading up to an album drop. And this was something I didn't get to ask Chris that I sort of was trying to get to, but, he was kind of like, what, you already want new music, And I think my point was like, sometimes when you hear these singles that get released by bands, they get released for like 2 years, before anything new comes out. And what happens to me is I get so used to hearing 2 to 3 to 4 to 5 singles before a whole album comes out. And what it does is it throws off the balance of the album a little bit, where like I put in the album and then I find myself sometimes I want to skip a song because I've heard it a million times, but all the other songs I haven't heard at all. So it takes a while before everything evens out and I can listen to it from beginning to end, which is how I like to listen to certain music. And like I said, there's we're going to be having Chris Hall on in a few minutes here, and you'll be able to hear from him about some really nice information. And like I said, I'll try to timestamp things down below. But I love the whole thing put together. We went over some of the things about Crawl sounds a little bit different. You'll hear about that. Some other songs on here sound a little bit different. I think I Am Nothing is like a fire start. I think it's a really good start. It's a good uppity single that's pretty cool sounding, that you could show anybody and say, hey, what do you think about this band? And if they like that song, then I think that they'll tend to like other stuff. But I think it's an easy one to get people into the music. And so I like the start of I Am Nothing. It reminds me of like a classic sort of Stabbing Westward sound, but also a classic sort of Chris Hall sound. And I think if you do like this album, you should check out the last Dreaming record, because that one has Walter on it a little bit, and that one really also has some songs on it that things like Destroy. I think Destroy is one that could have been on this one, because that's a great one. And Cold, is they cut it off a little bit. You'll hear about that later. But I Am Nothing is good. Good start. Love the song. That song is in my head all the time. Damaged Goods is is the second song. I love that as well. And so as I'm listening to this, I'm like, okay, I Am Nothing. Yep, I already like this song. Already know this song very well. Okay, don't skip it, because the first time listen, I'm like, don't skip it. I'm going to try to listen to everything from beginning to end. Don't skip it. So I don't skip it, and I like it. And we're on a Damaged Goods, and I get pretty, okay, cool. Okay, here's a song I haven't heard yet. Exciting. Love the way it starts. Could have very well easily been the first song on the CD, to be honest. Has a good beginning, and then it sounds great. It sounds as expected. You know what I mean? I kind of, with a little bit of more depth than I thought it would have, so that's cool. Then Cold comes on next. Cold is, I've heard it for years, reworked in different ways from, the Dreaming stuff to the EP they released. It doesn't have the big, long trumpet intro, which, I was a mark for because of, the old style Stabbing Westward 80s stuff. I played trumpet in band myself. And part of that was because of Chris Hall. No, I'm just kidding. But no, I played trumpet in bands, so I love trumpets. So hearing trumpets is cool. But they were like, eh. They worked with John Fryer on this, who had worked with them in the past. And they, collabed between John Fryer, Walter, and Chris Hall. I think really got this done. I think it sounds like it got passed off a little bit, and you'll hear that in the interview later. But then after Cold, now I've heard Cold a million times as well, so I had to be like, okay, this could be different. And it was a little bit different, but mostly just that they shortened the beginning of it. So I'm like, yes, I like this song, but I've heard it a lot. So at this point, I'm like really antsy to get to the next song that I haven't heard yet. And boy, that did not disappoint. The song, number 4 song that comes on is Push. And this song is absolutely brilliant fire. This song is sad, beautiful, and man, I'm telling you, there are going to be some people that will cry when they hear this song. And I'm not kidding. It's 7 minutes long. And I'm glad it's 7 minutes because otherwise it would be on loop if it was 3 minutes. It'd be on loop forever. It deserves to be 7 minutes. It is a wonderful, wonderful song. Like, it's the listenability of it is going to be amazing to go back and listen to it over and over again. And, one of the things that I'll say is sometimes when you have a really good poppy, uppity, rock, awesome hit, sometimes like you can listen to it, a certain amount of times and it starts to get like, okay, I've heard it now. Now it's not as impactful anymore. And I think this is one of those songs that really helps the listenability of this album because you're going to be able to listen to it from beginning to end a whole lot because of stuff like this. The depth of this song, I pray to the Stabbing Westward gods that at some point in the next couple of years we'll get them in Boston and I can hear that song live because that song kicks ass. I love it. I'm telling you, I think it's my favorite song on the album. I think Push is my favorite song. I love it. It's that 80s Stabbing Westward that they never really got to do fully is very present here, along with some of sort of the classic emotion and everything that Chris Hall would bring to it as well. And you can feel that there's an energy of Walter here and a different energy in there mixed in, and they're doing something different from obviously the 4th self-titled record. There's a very 80s Depeche Mode, Pink Floyd. And some other kind of feeling in here that's new, like a fresh take on Stabbing Westward again, which is something that they did every record. Like Ungod is different sounding than Wither, Blister, Burn, and Peel, but I like them both, but they seem in the same genre. And then even Darkest Days is different a bit. And it's really only the self-titled that kind of goes completely off the rails, but this feels like something new that would be added to, picking up where Darkest Days left off in the year 2022, So it's wonderful at this point. Wasteland is fire. I expected this song to be good. Wasteland was originally going to be the title of this album, and I think that was maybe Chris's vision. I didn't get to ask him this, but great title, Wasteland. Wasteland is about as expected as well, with a little more depth than I expected to it. So that's a rocking song that's going to kick ass live. So I really enjoyed Wasteland as well. It was very awesome to hear another new song, another fresh song after Push. And obviously feelings could change about this as we move forward. Control Z is another great single song. When I was a kid listening to Stabbing, a lot of the angsty stuff that I had, I related to a lot of the sadness and angsty stuff from their music, and obviously still do. But on this album, the guy who's married for 14 years, and sometimes I feel a bit isolated and I'm needy. I have abandonment issues. And so as far as relationships go and feeling that sort of unwanted even though you're with someone and all these other things, like there's going to be a lot of people that relate to this in a whole bunch of different ways. So Control Z is great as well. Crawl then comes on, and then Crawl has been heard several times throughout the years. Probably something that was written a long time ago that they used in the Dreaming here or there. Multiple different versions of Crawl. I mean, I don't even know how many versions of Crawl there are, but their most recent EP version was kind of an epic, with the music box and that theme, and I like that. And I thought it was really good. And I actually thought, well, at least that song is so good that on the record it's going to be okay to listen to it again, even though I've heard it 50,000 times. But then they reworked it for this. So, we'll talk about that later, but it really blends it in and is awesome as well. It's great to hear it because it would have sounded a little out of place, the other version, I think, maybe. And this one makes it kind of, we'll get into that in the interview. Crawl's great, though. Dead and Gone is great, a little reworked as well. I enjoy Dead and Gone. I start liking that song more and more the more I hear it. Ghost is on here, and that's another song that I think is a really cool song. And it basically, that song gets better and better as I listen to it. And then we come to the final song on the album, which is, wow. Bro, I love this song too. I love it, but I'm still a little staggered by it, but in a good way. It's a perfect ending to the album. It's called The End. And we'll get into that with Chris on the interview a little bit later. But it is a 7-minute song again, and I won't spoil the interview with Chris because we're going to talk about it there, but I'll just say that, man, it is a chilling, sad song. Like a very hopeless feeling, like to me, which is right up my alley. So I love it. So The End is something that I think people are going to enjoy, and it's something different, and it's perfect. I have no complaints about this at all. This CD, this album is awesome. This is absolutely like a beautiful fourth album for Stabbing Westward to put out. Hopefully the former members will hear it and think that as well. If they're out there, Jim out there somewhere. Andy's writing like TV show music somewhere. And all the other guys, Mark, I did ask Chris about releasing. A lot of people have asked about the releasing of original songs, so we'll get into that as well. But he'll answer that. But my opinion is, I just like. I think we're all super greedy, and I think I'm very greedy, and I think that I would pay. I know myself. I'd pay $5 to $10 a month for. Bands I love, certain bands, like Birthday Massacre has a great Patreon. And if a band was to release a new song every week, or not every week, but maybe every month there was one song, or maybe if they rework songs, a lot of people want acoustic versions of things or different takes. So I really think that if, Stabbing Westward or Chris Hall and Walter wanted to sort of get some extra income and have some fun connecting with the audience, I think they could launch a Patreon and just post once a week or once every couple of weeks, with whether it's an acoustic thing, a cover, alternate versions of things, hidden stuff, demos, whatever they wanted to do. But that's up, that would be really up to them if they wanted to take the time to do that. Let people hear some things early. I don't know. I would love it. I know that. I would think there would be a couple hundred people, if not more, that would sign up $5-10 a month to hear that and get sort of like an interaction. As long as they posted, maybe 5 to 10 times a month, I think that could be a really nice little community that they could launch. But maybe they're comfortable with what they're doing right now and they don't want to do that. They don't need to do that, and that's okay. But I know that there's a lot of people asking about that, and I was asking about that myself. And you'll hear the response to some of that. And I really am happy with this. Very, very happy. As a long-time listener, I got to give this a huge thumbs up. A double thumbs up. Chasing Ghosts, a double thumbs up. Out March 18th. Buy the CD, buy the digital. And now we're going to go and cut in a second here to... I got to sit down a little bit here with Chris Hall. I butchered this interview because I had so many questions, and I butchered our time. It was my fault. And... just thank you to Chris for taking the time to sit down with us, man. It was awesome. And you're going to get some tidbits here, so see what you can get out of this. Okay, so Chasing Ghosts features new songs as well as reworking from the band's 2020 EP Dead and Gone. Original founding members Christopher Hall, Walter Flackus, keyboard programming, doing all kinds of stuff on this. Walter was really doing just about everything as far as some of the songs. So he was doing a lot of different things, as was Chris, and I'm sure the other members added things as well. John Fryer worked with them on this, so that's super exciting to hear that he's back. Carlton Boast did guitars and some programming as well. Bobby Amaro is on the drums. Hope I said his name right. I never met Bobby before, but I know he's a good drum teacher, I heard, so pretty cool. We talked about the album, the touring situation. We're going to have some information on that. At some point, they're doing a benefit show in Chicago, the Metro, coming up, so look for that. And get Chasing Ghosts March 18th. And let's go to the interview. Have you heard it, Chris? Because the last time I heard from you, you had not actually heard the new mixes?
I have not, no.
You still haven't heard it?
I still have not heard it, no. Not yet. I heard Ghost. I directed and edited a video for Ghost. And so I heard Ghost about 7,000 times while I was editing the video. And my children were like, can you play a different song? I'm sorry, guys. Gotta just keep looping this one while I try and get Bobby's drums in time. Like trying to edit the drums so they hit at the right time, and then trying to edit like me singing so that like my mouth is moving, like it's not like a like old Chinese kung fu movie or something. And you listen to the song a lot, and there's like, wow, that part I didn't like about the song is not getting better. It's just annoying me every time I.
Oh, really? That song actually got. I've been finding I love that song more and more. The more I listen to it, I hear new things.
It's a good song.
Yeah, like
it's a cool song.
And so I hear different things. And so you're doing a music video for this, and I saw somewhere that there were people out there looking for photos and things like that. Does that have something to do with this?
Yeah, I was trying to. I had this big concept, and I was going to try and get some fan footage in the video, and then once I started actually cutting the video, it took a different direction. Like in my mind, I thought it was going to be one thing, and then I was able to film me, Carlton, and Bobby in LA, but Walter sent me footage of himself, and the way that he shot it, he used like his regular DSLR camera, and he would just put it on a table and then shoot, and he had all these, he's got this crazy Frankenstein's lab studio with all these like blinking lights, and he's running the track so all these lights are blinking in time, and they're all in the corners of the shot, and I'm like, I really like that. So I ended up taking a bunch of his Frankenstein's lab and cutting it into the video, and when I did that, it completely changed the direction of it. Like it became a different beast. And so
that happens with art, you know.
Yeah. You think you're going in one direction, and then you take a fork in the road, and next thing you know, you're writing a bluegrass record.
So you're telling me that I've heard this because I've heard the album now. You're telling me I've heard this before you?
Yeah.
Wow. All right.
I've heard 4 songs off of it.
So on the day of, that's crazy to me. Walter sort of, I heard an interview recently, and Walter apparently kind of took the reins of control of this one, and that's been kind of a first for you in a long time. And it sounds like you sort of were willing to let that happen, like and I'm sure that maybe that wasn't necessarily how you started out with this, but it sounds like Walter kind of took over, like I'll take care of it, and you sort of let him. And I wonder, is that because of you felt like let's do something different, or what? Why was that?
That makes me sound very generous. No, he hijacked it.
Yeah, he hijacked it. I was trying to be nice. Like I was like, it sounds like you just took over. Like, I'm doing it. I'll see you.
No, it was okay. So the situation was that you got two quarterbacks, 2 chefs, two pilots.
Yep.
And we both want to do our thing. And in the olden days of Stabbing Westward, back in the 1900s. Walter and Andy were the guys. They had studios in their houses, and they would do the majority of the music, and I would write the vocals, and that was kind of the band. And then after the band broke up, you know, I interned to be an engineer and a producer, and started producing other people's records and producing Dreaming albums, and you know, writing, you know, pretty much every Dreaming song was me with somebody else, me with Carlton, me with Jinx, whatever. Mm-hmm. And so that's kind of how we got used to working as, you know, a pair, you know, and I was always the producer, so I always had sort of the final say. Mm-hmm. I would be like, okay, this is the vision I see for the song. They would give me parts, I would assemble it, and so it always kind of had my stamp on it.
Yeah.
And when Walter and I started working on these new songs, you know, the majority of them came out of my brain. Mm-hmm. Ghost is a perfect example. I wrote Ghost at home on my computer, and I did a really minimal version of it, sent it to Walter, and he basically wrote a brand new song.
Wow.
Which, you know, over the weekend, he wrote like all new music for it, and it was cool. I mean, I was like, wow, that's really, really cool. It's way better than, because I left it really like open, like, mm-hmm. okay, I want everyone to be able to contribute, and he just wrote a completely new track. The vocals still worked, but that was pretty much the only thing left over from my original idea. I'm like, that's really awesome. This is a very cool version of the song. But what if we did this? And he's like, no, we don't need to change anything. This is perfect. This is exactly the way the song is supposed to be. And I'm like, yeah, but that bass guitar in the verse just really doesn't need to be there. It's like, can we just lose the bass guitar? No, this is perfect. And so mm-hmm. every song we sort of had that like butting heads kind of thing.
Right.
And we'd made a promise to each other when we started this record. We will not let anybody ever do to us what they did to us on the self-titled record, where we went in with one batch of songs and we came out with this unrecognizable pile of turds. And it's like, we'll never let a producer or a manager or a record label or anybody ever push us in the wrong direction again. We know exactly what we want on this record. And we made this vow, and that was our thing for this record. And then I realized, oh, he means me too.
Right.
Means he won't let me do anything to his song. So
even if you started the song, like
yeah.
So you have to be willing. So going forward, you now know, because I mean, you guys have come back to being close again. So going forward, you now know if I have something important to me and I bring it to him, it may be altered. I may keep that to myself in the future, or.
That's exactly what ended up happening. Is that once it started, we had to get John involved in order to like get the song finished, because we were just, you know, loggerheads. We were just done. Mm-hmm. We couldn't figure out how to get around the thing. So John sorted it out. Him and John did their 7 songs for the record. They mixed them. Didn't ask anyone's opinion. Just like once they were happy, that was done. And then I did I Am Nothing, Push, Cold, and Wasteland. So I did 4 of them.
So
they were my songs. I basically kind of kept them to myself.
Oh, you kept? Oh, really? Okay. So because
yeah.
So you'll like this then. This is some suck up stuff. Push is amazing. That song blew my head when I heard that.
Yeah.
I love that song.
Walter's music originally was he wrote the soundtrack for that.
Uh-huh.
And then I did the vocals, and then he let me take it kind of next level with a bunch of like extra pure layers of you know, guitars and synths and stuff coming in and really building the track.
Yeah.
That was a fun song to do.
This album, or at least some of the songs especially, they have a sound that I haven't heard before, really, a little bit. There's a little bit of, you know, that, I mean, it's that 80s, you guys talk about this a lot, that 80s sound that you never really got because the band transitioned Ungod, you know, with a blister, and it kind of like took on these other personas. This sounds like that sound finally that you were maybe going for, but now it's 2022, you know?
That is exactly it. Yeah, when we started the band, this is what we wanted to do. We wanted to do analog synths and drum machines. Mm-hmm. You know, we wanted to be an electronic band. Depeche Mode was our favorite band in the entire world. And then after 2 tours with them, basically spending 2 years with them, you know, it got even driven deeper into us. This love of like, you know, pure analog synths and drum machines. But the band just kept going more and more kind of alternative rock. At one point, we sounded more like Bush than Depeche Mode.
Yeah.
With songs like Everything I Touch and On Your Way Down. And so, yeah, Walter and I were like, let's just go back to our roots. Like, let's just do it, and that's what he's great at, man. He's got so many keyboards, so many cool drum machines, and he's able to just, once you untie his hands and let him go nuts, he's brilliant.
How did you feel about, because the some of the songs changed, a couple of them from the EP that came out a little while back, and one of those things is Crawl.
Yeah.
How do you feel Crawl was changed? Which version do you like better, and how do you feel about those changing up those versions?
Oh, I don't. You can't really even compare them. I don't even think of Crawl as being the same song now. I loved the original version because that was my baby. But John didn't really understand it. He didn't like the fact that it was a weird time signature and based on a music box and all that. Really, like you're a rock band. Yeah. So Walter took it and was messing around with it. And I was just like, what if we do it in 4/4? What if we do it in like a regular time instead of in this weird? I was doing it in 3/4, so it's kind of almost like a waltz on a music box. And so I sang the vocal in 4/4, which was really weird and hard the first time I did it. But I found a way to make it work and sent it to him, and then he built the entire track around that vocal, and I think it came out really cool. But they're two completely different things, and I think that was kind of the point, was that when we did the EP, we hadn't signed a record deal to make an album.
Yeah.
So we were presenting those 3 songs as they were, but in order to use those 3 songs on the record, I felt like they needed to be, changed up a bit, and John took the reins on that. And then on like Cold, he basically was like, lead singers of industrial bands don't play trumpet.
Yeah, you cut the beginning.
You can't play trumpet.
I love the whole thing from beginning to end. I think Crawl, I think it breaks up a little bit because even though I love the original version, it's very epic and stuff, but I think it adds a different element to this that keeps things fresh moving through it. So but
and it gives it cohesion through the album too. I think having Crawl sound like that makes it feels like a whole album. If it was the other version, it would feel out of place.
I agree. It marries it to this sound that we're going for here. I've always wanted to hear the Fly Away done or redone, and I don't think that necessarily happened, but you did have a line or some lines from it and a lot of themes from that song.
Here's the Easter egg. Fly Away came after the end.
Okay, so
the end was written for the self-titled album. And it was considered too dark for the record.
Yeah, well, it was pretty.
So Walter and I went back to it, and so the original vocal melody and lyrics that became Fly Away, that's what those are. So I kept the same vocal approach and lyrics as the original version that I did for the self-titled album that never got released. So this is actually the original version of Fly Away.
Was, which is good. Like it was very hard. It was very sad, like very hard hitting. So I think mission accomplished.
Can't wait to hear it.
So, you haven't heard it yet? That's right. Chris Hall hasn't heard the record.
But I heard all the demos. I mean, I tracked the vocals, so I heard everything. I just haven't heard John's mixes and then the mastering by Tom. So at some point, I'll get a record sent to me.
The bass
they printed vinyl. So.
I've never heard the bass sound like it does on this album from anything even that you've done. And I know Carlton did the bass, right? So he's been around for a while, but I've never heard it sound this way.
No, I think Walter did. I think Carlton played some of the bass, but I think Walter played a lot of it. Walter played the bass on the end.
Okay. Yeah, I
think Walter did all the instruments on the end.
Yeah, it's people are, if you haven't heard it yet, I mean, you guys, this is wild. I'm pretty excited about it. So with all these,
it's very Pink Floyd meets.
That's what I said
tonight. Genesis,
it's very Pink Floyd sounding. The end sounds very Pink Floyd. Yep, and I love Pink Floyd, so it makes sense.
We do too, yeah. I mean, that was our pre-'80s influence. It was definitely Pink Floyd and Genesis and stuff like that.
It's when a band can sound so like different or weird or interesting to me, and especially a singer. Like I always thought Roger Waters was bizarre, in comparison to Gilmour. And when they come together, it sort of marries that. And that's what I think about. That's why I think anything you sing usually I like. I think it's that it has to sound a little different. If it sounds just like every other singer, it's not as interesting at all to me. Going into the songs being done differently, you've talked about this in the past. This is a huge question I put out on a couple message boards, and I saw this question 100 times. People are really itching for those self-titled demos, and I talked a couple years ago about maybe make a Patreon and every month release a track or release a rework or something. Is that something you guys could see you guys doing?
I don't know. I got to move forward. That's like a pretty dark period in our history.
Are you just move on? Like we're not gonna, we're not gonna do it.
I'd rather just move on. I mean, I've gone back and listened to a couple of those demos, and they were rough. They weren't great because we don't. By that point, we weren't wasting the time trying to do polished demos. When we first got signed, we would try and make our demos sound like albums, but then we realized it's a waste of time to nitpick a demo when you're going to go in and re-record the whole thing.
Right.
So a lot of those were, just basically sketches of the songs. But I can tell you that like Wasted and Wasted was a much darker song. And then so was Happy. Happy was a really kind of sounded like a dark garbage song, like the band Garbage. It just had this sort of trip hoppy, cool quality to it that it lost by the time that it made it on the record. It was ironically not a happy song. So even the chords were different. Like the guitar player who came in on that record, I don't want to talk about it.
Yeah. I mean, we've been. I don't want to
talk
make
about our awesome new record.
Yeah, like let's talk about Chasing Ghosts. People just harped on it after you mentioned it a couple of times. I think people are like, "Oh, cool, that's coming out too." But yeah, Chasing Ghosts is out. So what do you look forward to in the future coming up? Like, do you guys? Is it all about touring? That's the real biggest question is about the touring, and I'm sure you guys don't even know. But people want to know when you're coming out here, and we know you can only do weekends. What's the plan for touring?
Yeah, we're weekend warriors now. I don't know, man. We told our agent that we're available for the summer, and we've got a handful of gigs. So I don't know. I think what ended up happening is that all the bands in the world stopped touring for 2 years. Half the clubs in the world shut down because they didn't have any business for 2 years, and so now you've got all the bands in the world ready to go back out on tour with half as many rooms to play in. And so I think it's slim pickings to find a place to play. I know the places we're confirmed. We're doing Portland, Seattle in July. We're going to Brussels for a show the week before that, and then we're doing a benefit show April 15th in Chicago at the Metro. As far as I know, that's. Oh, and we're doing a metal festival in West Virginia.
Okay, well that'll be interesting. August,
yeah, that should be interesting. Would be a word for it.
That will be really.
I'm gonna watch Deliverance the night before.
I'll have to see that.
Actually, West Virginia is a beautiful state. Actually, we've played a couple times before. It's like the mountains are beautiful. It's really, really a great place.
I'll go anywhere at this point to get.
I haven't been to Boston in 5 years.
Yeah, I think I saw you guys in maybe Rhode Island. I think 5 years or 3.
That was a long time ago.
Yeah, time has flown by since then. I think I saw you in Boston at the Middle East, and then I saw you in Providence after that. I think.
Yeah, that was forever ago.
Yeah. It feels like I'm sure you haven't even thought about
putting out
yet.
Another record.
Yeah, or a song, or maybe, or do you think that like,
dude, man, we just got this one done.
I know this is just coming out, but yeah, I mean, going forward,
so greedy.
Oh yeah, no, we are. Yeah, the people are. I'm reading the questions and I'm going by the questions. I'm like, wow, they already want new stuff.
Yeah.
What are
let's see how they respond to the new stuff, because I'm still not convinced.
Oh, really?
That anybody wants to hear anything other than Save Yourself and What Do I Have to Do. We'll see. When we play this stuff live, we'll see what the reaction is. I'm hoping that enough fans have listened to it online or on the album that they know it when we play it. Because that's the thing, is every time you put out a new record, you're supposed to play the new songs on the new record to support the new record. But What's that?
What's the song you're most excited to play from the new record?
I've only heard 4 of them, so I'm just kidding. I think we're going to add Ghost and I Am Nothing to the set list for April. Both of those will be fun to sing. I'd like to sing. I'd like to sing Wasteland. I think that one would be really fun. And Push. I think Push would be really epic.
Yeah.
Push could be the new Waking Up Beside You.
Yeah, I'll push for the new Push. That one really hit me.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
I see what you did there.